Hey everybody, welcome to your readings for the week. These are the readings for the week ending May 13th. This is our last full week of the Mercury retrograde, and it was a little bit crazy last week, and it's going to be a little bit crazy in some ways this week, and not necessarily because of the moon or because of the Mercury retrograde, but those things are definitely going to play into the craziness for sure. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Actually, I do not have my list up. What is wrong with me once again? Totally dropping the ball here. Actually, I'm not really dropping the ball, but I'm dropping the ball. You know what I mean. Okay, so we got it up here. Let's put it over here. I don't want to miss anybody. Yes, that has been a thing, and I want to avoid that thing. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with Darcy, who is still the first one on our list. Okay, Mercury still retrograde in Taurus and moving towards the beginning of the sign. And what's interesting is at the same time Jupiter, which is in Aries, is moving 20 into 29 degrees Aries this week, which means probably by the end of next week, beginning of the week after that, Jupiter is officially moving into Taurus. And that's actually kind of exciting, because Jupiter is all about growth and expansion in many ways. He's going to move in to influence your career to start, but we'll spend an entire year in Taurus. So we'll promote that growth and expansion all across the board for you. But we're going to start off with career, which is kind of fun. But Mercury is moving closer and closer to Jupiter. So not quite in a conjunction this week with Jupiter, but pretty darn close. And because Jupiter is on the cusp of Taurus and is in a T-square with Pluto and Mars all week long, Mercury is moving into position to really be a big part of that. And as we get towards the end of the week, specifically, actually, I'm sorry, the very middle of the week, when the moon moves into conjunction with Pluto, we have all, I mean, literally, we've got 5 planets all basically consumed into this T-square. So it does become a pretty big challenge. I mean, it is a big challenge all week long, but it definitely is heightened at the middle of the week. So in terms of Mercury retrograde madness, in terms of things becoming a little bit too emotional and emotional communications really taking place, it's going to peak right at the very middle of the week and then kind of continue to be there, but not quite so crazy, if that makes sense. So let's delve a little bit further into a little bit of a nightmare that we have here. Mars continues to be focused on inner trauma. I feel like Mars has been focused on inner trauma for months, and unfortunately, with Uranus in Taurus, he's been lined up with that for quite a while now. So, in good ways and in bad ways, that release of anger, release of old anger is influencing Taurus and has been for quite a while. And it is a little bit well, it's a little bit frustrating, I'm sure, but at the same time, it's really a good thing. It is like cleaning out your closet. I mean, we all get to that point where we have so much junk stored up in a place that it becomes overwhelming and we don't clean it because it's just too much to deal with. But you can't not clean it because stuff starts falling out pretty soon. There's no room for things. So it is like cleaning out your closet. It's not fun. It's not something that we're all like, "Ooh, could we clean out the closet?" It's more of a, I really got to get this done. So it's not falling out of the closet anymore. And you don't want old anger triggered and falling out of that closet in the wrong place. Not to mention the fact that that anger does, in many ways, impede your progress, because it also becomes mindsets that are not necessarily healthy for you. It becomes excuses so that you don't have to fail because you never tried to succeed. It really works in a lot of very strange and creative ways, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting that. Pluto is focused on your day-to-day schedule, and Pluto is retrograde, went retrograde last Monday. So this is the second week of retrograde. We're not going to count them down because there's too many of them. So 4 to 6 months. Pluto is 4 to 6 months retrograde as a rule. So we're not counting down the weeks on that one. It is what it is. We're in it for the long haul, basically. And Wednesday, the moon moves into conjunction with that Pluto. Now, Pluto is our source of power. It rules transformation. In your influencing your day-to-day schedule, that plays out as not having any power over changes that are made in your schedule, which is very frustrating. Or even causing a scheduling conflict in some way, shape, or form, specifically around, say, maybe, for instance, appointments that you can't change. You know how the doctor's office doesn't like to work around your schedule. They just give you an appointment and tell you to deal with it, which means you got to go to work and say, I have to take time off for a doctor appointment, and then work is not happy about that, right? So it's a complication. It's not the end of the world, but it is going to bring up complications. And when the moon is in conjunction with Pluto, I feel like this complication is either going to be more frustrating than normal, or is going to trigger an emotional response in some way. It's almost like, I get the feeling it's like the straw that broke the camel's back in many ways. And yet sometimes that straw is exactly what we need to be done being stuck in this situation, if that makes sense. Jupiter's focus is on long-term goals, and Mercury's focus is on your career. So we're really kind of bumping those together to, again, focus on your long-term career goals. And I feel like this is less of a going in and doing, and more of a kind of sitting down and really kind of looking at what you want to do. I'm not saying that what you are doing is bad or wrong or you don't like it, but I kind of get the sense that you've always done what you had to do, right? In order to survive, in order to pay the bills, in order to live. You just gone and done what you needed to do in order to get that done. And you've tried in the past to change that pattern, and something happened and it just didn't work. So I feel like this is another one of those checkpoints, for lack of a better way of saying it, where you are kind of sitting down and re-looking at what you want to do. I have to say, I'm not saying you're old, okay? I don't even know how old you are. I don't remember. But as we get older, every year we get older, that becomes a more prominent excuse. Well, there's no sense in starting this process now. It's a bunch of BS. It's the easiest excuse for us to use. That's why we use it so often, I think, honestly. There is no limit, no time limit, no age limit for education or to make changes or any of those things, right? Yes, in life there are things that make it more difficult than when we were 20, but for the most part, that does not mean that you shouldn't try and that you shouldn't pursue it, or that you shouldn't look into doing what it is that you want to do, if that makes sense. So all in all, I'm gonna say this week might be a little bit challenging. Patience is a virtue. And no, you're not going to be able to have patience every single day of the week. That's okay. If you can have patience every day but one, that is so much better than being frustrated for 7 days. So think about it that way, and don't beat yourself up because you can't maintain that higher vibe, if that makes sense. You know, we all have those days. So that's what I have for you, Darcy. I am going to go ahead and move on to Kendra now, because we have all the stuff that are going on in Taurus. It's almost like, and you thought that it couldn't get crazier, and then bam, here it comes, right? And this is a really, just think it's interesting how everything is lining up and the timing of it for you, knowing that you are basically getting ready to leave this week and travel, and all of that stuff. If you're not leaving this week, you're leaving next week. So you're still getting ready. Okay, never mind. I said the right thing. I'm good. I thought I confused myself for a minute, but it's okay. We dodged that bullet. It happens a lot. Anyways, this is what's interesting that's going on in Taurus right now. First of all, the Sun and Uranus are moving into conjunction with each other. They will be in conjunction with each other on Wednesday in the middle of the week, which when planets are in conjunction with each other, it's pretty powerful. They were really working together. And what's also interesting is that Uranus and the Sun are in a trine with Pluto, which is also a trine with the moon, as the moon moves into conjunction with Pluto on Wednesday, and in a sextile with Mars, which is still focused on let's release our inner anger, right? And I know you've been going through a lot of that. And I'm pretty sure you're kind of sitting there wondering, when the hell is it over? It feels like, doing the horoscopes, it feels like Mars has been stuck in this. The signs have changed, but the placement of inner trauma and focus on inner trauma has not changed for at least a couple of months. And that's a long time. It shouldn't really feel like it, but the reason that it's happening is because Mars is following it. And obviously it's happening for a reason. We all have a lot of anger that we need to let go of. And you and I, for example, have gone through the process of letting go of a lot of old anger. And we're realizing that there's still plenty more in there to get rid of. So it's like the minute you think you got it all, there comes, it's like doing the dishes, right? You do the last dish, walk away, come back, there's like 3 dishes in the sink later because somebody cleaned their room. That's how I kind of look at it. It's annoying, it's frustrating, but you can see that it's also helping as well. We also have Jupiter moving into 29 degrees Aries by the end of the week, which means next week, this is also very interesting timing for you, my friend, I have to say. Next week, Jupiter, either next week or the very beginning of the week after, but I'm pretty sure next week, Jupiter will be moving into Taurus. Jupiter is all about growth and expansion. And as he's moving into your sign, you're moving out of the West Coast. You're moving out of California and out of your home and into a new one. And you're starting this beautiful new adventure. I just hit me. This timing is really perfect for you. You couldn't have planned it better if you tried, honestly. It's very, very cool. However, as he's moving into Taurus, he is locked in a T-square, which is a pretty major challenge with that Mars focused on our inner anger, as well as Pluto, which also just went retrograde. And on Wednesday, the moon moves into conjunction with Pluto, and Mercury is moving closer and closer and closer to Jupiter. So by the end of the week, Mercury is also playing into this ginormous challenge here. So, okay, so your timing couldn't have been so great with that, but I mean, for every good thing, there is a bad, right? And the fact of the matter is that moving an entire household and going on a little adventure to that household, there's always going to be challenges with that. You're going to have to deal with traffic. You're going to have to deal with, stuff that happens. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you have children, you got to take care of them and they get hungry sometimes. There's a million things that are going to happen on this trip, none of which are going to stop you from getting where you need to go. So I feel that really for you, what comes out of this is stay out of your head. Okay. You're not going through the day collecting BS that took place that day anymore. Right. So because you're not doing that, let it all go and focus on the cool stuff that happened during the trip. I also want to say that, you know, as crazy, I mean, I'm literally visualizing like stuff just being last minute stuff just being thrown in all these different places as you set out to have everything packed up in there and organized and ready to go, and it just does not work out that way, and it seems like a nightmare. Okay, but once you are done and you get in the car and you're going, it's, you guys are going to have so much fun. I mean, the whole family needs this together time and fun time and not work time. And so even though it's like the final push seems like it's really, really stressful, it just it's like it completely changes all of a sudden. And that's also very, very cool, I think. So yeah, I mean, you are dealing with some challenges, but you're dealing with some really good things and influences that are coming in also. And Mercury's retrograde is over next week. So, you know, you're traveling at the very end stages and into the shadow period, which is going to create issues. But I think that you're going to have more fun than you are frustration. So that's what I have for you this week. And we're going to move on to Jeannette. So we are officially, there. Did you get that? Okay, good. Venus is officially moved out of Gemini. In fact, 0 degrees Cancer starting on Sunday. So that means that she is officially out of Gemini. But for the first couple of days, she's on the cusp of Gemini. So her influence is still going to be felt a little bit. And of course, as she is moving out of your sign on Monday, she sort of moves into opposition with the moon. They're kind of moving together. And she moves into opposition with the moon and squared with Neptune, which does create a T-square, which is a fairly large challenge, especially because these are 3 highly emotional planets in an emotional sign, but cusping yours. Awesome. This little thing is still happening. I'm so happy. Okay. We tried to fix this problem with the camera, and obviously we didn't. So yay, I'm so happy about that. Anyways, moving on. 3 highly emotional planets in an emotional sign affecting an intellectual sign. So, but you're a woman, so you all know all about emotions, right? We get those days that are just really highly emotional for us. Intellectual signs are not. Between you and me, okay? Aquarius, Gemini, we don't have to tell anybody, but we do get those very emotional days. And I do feel that this may be one of them for you because of the way everything is lining up emotion. Ow, emotionally. Okay, let's try to calm that down there just a little bit. Oh, I've been fighting something for like a week now. And now it looks like I'm crying. Okay. Now, um, okay. Venus's focus is on your support system. The moon's focus is on those you love. Neptune's focus is on finances. This is a classic recipe for a fight over money, honestly. And that fight over money sort of bringing up insecurities on your part in some way, if that makes sense. Could be bringing up insecurities on the other person's part as well. In fact, chances are it probably is, but that's not your concern. Your concern is you and what you need to work through, if that makes sense. So first of all, what I don't see in this is you going to that panic place, if that makes sense. The place that you used to go to in the beginning of the relationship, where it's like, oh my God, he's not gonna love me anymore. You know, we all do it. Okay, we all do it. Just admit it. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I don't see you going to that place. Or if I do see you going to that place, I see you dancing on that line and saying, no, I'm not going to that place, right? This is not that, okay? This is a problem that's occurring during a Mercury retrograde, and during Mercury retrogrades, nobody communicates properly unless they are paying attention and making sure they do, okay? It's one of those instances, and I see it blowing over fairly quickly. However, I do see that day also just being frustrating, lots of stupid delays and or things popping up that you thought you dealt with and you don't really want to deal with now. You know, we all have those days where it's like, what the hell is next? Will this day ever end? And you wind up going to sleep at 8 o'clock because you just want it to end, right? And once it moves on, Venus's influence moves out of your sign enough to where you're not feeling that as heavily anymore. Also, focus is starting to move for Gemini, that is. Focus is still on your support system, very much so, which you have this fantastic support. You know everybody, okay? You're that lady I know that knows everybody, okay? But I feel like this is less about needing, quote unquote, needing your support system, and just more about enjoying your support system. And when you have this discussion over money that is difficult, the beauty is knowing you don't even have to do it, just knowing that you can pick up your phone and call one of, I don't know, what, 10, 15, 20 people to be able to vent your frustration, get it out of the way so that you can move on to finding a solution to the problem, if there is a problem. So that's what I have for you this week, Jeannette, and I'm going to move on to Connie, right? Yes, I'm moving on to Connie. Okay. This is awesome. All right. There is nothing happening in Leo at all, which is really good because currently right now there's a lot happening everywhere else, and you know, you just don't want to deal with it, right? You're totally fine letting somebody else go ahead and take the reins on this one, and that's really what I feel is going to happen here. Focus is on self. A lot of times that means self-care, yes. And I do find it interesting that your schedule has sort of opened up quite a bit. And I still don't see that as being forever. I do continue to feel that it is a good idea to explore other options when it comes to where you make your money, if that makes sense. And I do mean other places, other companies. But honestly, I think that it's interesting timing that your focus is on self, and your work week is light. It gives you more time to focus on yourself, to focus on self-care, to focus on development, to focus on growth, to focus on emotional peace. whatever that looks like. So yeah, it's good timing. However, in my experience personally, I take a lot of time going, oh, I wish I had time to focus on myself, but I just don't. I'm so super busy, all the time. Too bad I don't have time for myself. I'm so super busy. And then when you have a plethora of time, it's like, oh shit, I have to focus on this stuff, right? This stuff that I need to do that is good for me to do, like check in with your health, for example, your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, um to check in with your daily habits. Are they good habits? Are they not good habits? Do you need to promote some more good habits in your life? And that's a tall order because we really get stuck in how we do things, and we think we feel that makes us feel good, but it's not. It's really destroying our bodies, right? So I do feel like there's an element of having to focus on that specifically this week. There could be doctor's appointments, and that's one of the reasons why you have to focus on it. It's the focus is being brought to the table at this point. But I also am kind of feeling like, in many ways, lately, while we all struggle with and try to put off our own healing, especially when it comes to the big stuff, this is really a good time for you to focus on that, if that makes sense. It might even be a good time to do some inner child work if that's something that you're into this week. Okay, so there is that. The other thing that is coming up is I'm literally watching you laugh at yourself, and I mean hysterically laugh at yourself. And I don't really know if it's because you made a mistake and it's silly, or if there's something that's taking place where you're like hysterically laughing at yourself and the fact that you're in the situation. Okay. And so this is not and when I say laughing at yourself, I don't mean like in a derogatory way. I mean like, this situation that you just found yourself in is so completely entertaining, and either the way you handled it or the way that it was handled in somebody else's hands or what have you. I don't know what it is, but Frankie's like, be careful, don't pee yourself. Because she just says, I mean, she's just showing me this vision of you laughing so hard at this, and you need that laugh. We all need that laugh. And this is a really, in many cases, this is not Connie being stupid or anything like that. It's like a light bulb moment in many ways. I really can't describe what it is that you're laughing at because they're just not showing me. It would take away from the surprise, and we don't want to take away from the surprise. That's what I have for you, except, do you need an oil change on your car? You might need to look into that. That's all I have for you. Connie, moving on to Jenny. Nothing in Leo. The whole almost rest of the zodiac is in complete chaos, but there is nothing going on in Leo. Honestly, that is not a bad thing at all. Not a bad thing at all. And focuses on self. A lot of that is self-care. I feel like for you this week, in terms of focus on self, I see a lot of focus on your schedule, first of all, not as in doing what is on your schedule, but molding your schedule around, making changes, moving things around to make them work better for you, to make the energy needs to flow and the schedule needs to flow with it in order for things to work the way that they need to work, if that makes sense. So that's one thing that I'm seeing for you. The other thing that I'm seeing, which makes no sense at all, is you with the torch. Oh, you take that however you want it, okay? I almost get the feeling like, oh, oh, it's you with a torch, but you know how they start off the Olympic Games, right? Where somebody runs in with a torch. No, I don't see you actually doing this, okay? But somebody runs in with the torch and then lights the big flame that's supposed to stay lit throughout the whole games. And then the term "let the games begin" comes along behind that. So I'm not sure what that means, if your daughters are into sports, or it may not even be a sports game. It may refer to other types of games too. So this could be a good thing or a not so good thing. I get the feeling that it is a good thing. When I say or a not so good thing, I'm thinking of somebody who plays games and they're like, let the games begin, kind of a thing. And that would not necessarily benefit you to have to deal with somebody who plays games, obviously, right? That did come to mind, but I would like to steer it towards something that's a little bit more positive. Hopefully that's the case. If this is about somebody who does play games, the red flags. Get them out of there, because you don't want to deal with that, right? Nobody wants you, and Jenny ain't got no time for that. Jenny ain't got no time for that. Just sing your little song that I just made up for you. Well, actually, this lady in spirit here that's around you made that up for you, okay? So there is that. And I'm also picking up on, and it may be this week or it may be something that's announced this week that's coming up, but I feel like you are either going to receive an award for something, or I really kind of get the feeling that you are going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, rewarded for something. That's not the word I was looking for at all, but it goes along that way. Receiving an award for something. I see that popping up. If it's not you, it's somebody around you that's receiving this award. Although I personally think that you deserve one. So I'm hoping that it's you. So anyways, that is what I have for you, Jenny, and I'm gonna move on to Linda. Virgo time. Really nothing going on in Virgo, which is good, because there's all kinds of other chaos going around. And what I know about Virgos is they like to stir the pot and then sit back and watch the chaos. Well, there's so much going on that you don't even have to stir the pot. I mean, it's completely and totally free. You have to do nothing. Okay. So that's annoying most of the time when you're trying to get something done, but when you just want to be entertained, it's usually you usually don't have to go very far to find it. Which is funny, actually, because I am being shown somebody in the place that you live now, or like one of the other people that live there. Okay. This is an older gentleman, and God, he seems like so much fun. Like you just want to laugh and laugh and laugh with him. This may be somebody that your husband is really enjoying, like cultivating a friendship with, or something like that. You don't mind him necessarily either, but I just see laughing with him, which You know what? I think that's really good for you. It's really good for him, and it's really good for you. Because it's, you need to take that break away from all the stuff that you're doing, just to kind of, let loose and laugh and enjoy for a few minutes. Ceres continues to be in Virgo and is no longer retrograde. It is moving direct again, focuses on the past. This is actually very interesting to me, because Ceres is all about nurturing. And how are you going to nurture the past? Something that you can't change. Well, obviously, you're not nurturing the past. You're nurturing your perception of the past. And I feel that there are situations that are going to come up this week that sort of remind you that the way you look at past situations, your perception of those past situations is not always entirely accurate, because we form a feeling in that moment, and we always look at that situation with that feeling and with that feeling only, and not necessarily for what the feeling is. You're a logical Virgo, and I feel like you try not to do that now, but that doesn't mean anything in the course of things that happened, say 20, 30 years ago, right? So with that being said, I feel like past situations that are triggered by current situations, to understand the situation that happened better and to look at it for what it is instead of how you felt about it, helps you to nurture those feelings and ultimately let them go, so that they're not keeping you from, being awesome, of course, because what else is there, Linda, but to be awesome, right? So that is one thing there. The other thing that I am picking up specifically, I want to say around a car, okay? And I'm looking at one of the tires, and there is something, it's like something stuck in one of the tires or something like that. So I see that being a concern or something that may be coming up this week. If you are doing any traveling, like, you gotta do a 2-hour drive or whatever, make sure you check the tires before you do. And that will help you to avoid a blowout on the way there or on the way back, if that makes sense. You could deal with it ahead of time, and hopefully make that easier. I don't see it as something where you need like a whole new tire, but you might just need to, like, get it repaired or something like that. Last thing that I'm being shown for you is mm, it's like a bouquet of flowers, and they're like this blue and purple and violet colors. They're very vibrant and they're very dark, and it looks like an actual bouquet, like a wedding bouquet. And well, I don't see you getting married again, obviously. There is something about a partnership around that, and because the colors, to me, blue and purples are communication, they're connection to spirit. They're the stones, the blues and the purples are the stones that you use to open your third eye and connect with spirit. So this is a partnership, but I believe it could be a partnership with a new guide, if that makes sense. So I was just going to say, I know you check in with your counsel, and somebody said not as often as she should be. Okay, so that's one thing. This may be a new guide on your counsel, but this may also be a guide that you're working with outside of the council, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you, Linda. And I'm going to move on to Matalyn. We have no planets in Virgo, which is really good, because it's a shit show everywhere else. So always fun to be able to sit back and watch that shit show without having to be a part of it. Honestly, I know most Virgos really enjoy that. You can do that with John. He'll pop some popcorn and pop a beer with you while you do it. He loves that. We do continue to have Ceres in Virgo, not retrograde anymore. She has moved direct as of the very beginning of this week, so that pardon me, that nurturing influence is not mirrored back at you anymore. You're projecting that out again. However, what's also interesting is that Virgo's focus is on the past right now. Now, there's two things that come out of that. First of all, you're in your first year of adulthood, right? Which I don't mean to say this in an offensive way, like you're still a kid. You're always, first of all, you're always going to be a kid to me. I'm always going to call you a kid. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay. Okay. Let's just establish that and get that out of the way. Okay. Because I'm old and you're not. All right. And I was there, not there when you were born, but you know what I mean, right? So it's always going to happen. You're all kids because I am totally forgetting all of your names anyways. Okay. So bottom line here, you're in the first year of your adulthood, right? Now, the very first year of your adulthood, there's a part of it that's like liberating because you're like, I'm 18. Okay. So I don't necessarily have to ask permission anymore. I don't necessarily have to, have all the rules that I did when I was a kid. You're getting your liberation, right? And you're adjusting to that. Your parents are adjusting to that. And everybody's sort of adjusting to that. Okay. But with your liberation comes responsibility. And that is like, I think I'll give up my liberation to go backwards because it was way more fun then. Everything was taken care of for me, right? If only, all right. There isn't a single person that doesn't wish that. Well, that's not true. There's a lot of people that maybe did not have childhoods that were really good and would never want to go back to that. But for most of us, we would love to go back to not having to take care of ourselves. Trust me, I still would love to do it. I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. The problem, though, is, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is to allow you to understand that every human being, especially the ones that spend a lot of time in here, and Virgos do, every human being starts off thinking about that every now and then as they get older and older and older and things become more challenging and difficult and they have more responsibilities, they waste more and more and more time focusing on the past and what they had and not what they have. And the reason that I'm telling you this, and this is coming up right now, is to let you know, while you're in your first year of adulthood, that the more you do that now, the more it's going to amplify later on. It seems sometimes like you have no control. You don't know what to do. There's a million avenues you could go in. It's hard to make a decision. This is the first time you're really doing this, blah, blah, blah. You know what you want to do. Your heart is pushing, is pointing in the direction that you want to go in. And it doesn't matter if people don't like it. What matters is that this is what you feel you're pulled to do. And if you're pulled to do it, then you're pulled to do it for a reason. And no, not everybody's going to like your decisions all the time, but it's okay. They're your decisions, right? And really, unless your decision is to hang off a cliff by a hook and see how long it takes before your pants rip and you fall, then nobody really has a say in that. Okay? If you're going to hang off a cliff by a hook until your pants, I am pulling you off that cliff. Okay, just saying. So I feel that that's one of the things that might be popping up throughout the week. The other thing is, it's really weird, but I just saw Mookie just right now sitting on my desk, my dad's cat, which if you saw, you were pretty little, honestly. I don't remember if I took you over there or not. I mean, obviously you knew my dad and my dad knew you. Mookie is just hanging out to say, hey, Maddie, what's going on? Okay. So, in any case, there is that also. The other thing that's coming up around you is I kind of feel that there may be a situation. I kind of feel there might be a situation coming up where, okay, either you had plans with somebody and you decide to go in a different direction, or you had plans with somebody and they decided to go in a different direction. It's sort of one of those situations where somebody's going to be upset. We're just going to put it that way. However, if you have plans with somebody and you need to go in a different direction, or they need to go in a different direction, you just want to be careful that you're being upset is not going to hold them back, and that them being upset is not going to hold you back either. I know we've talked in the past about how, you talked about how your parents and all their friends and we've all been friends forever, and every single one of you kids wants that. Every single one of you kids wants that. But every single one of us will also agree that we held each other back so many ways. It's really not even funny. And I kind of sort of think back, and I don't get me wrong, okay? I don't blame your parents. I don't blame anybody, okay? Because the blame is on me, right? It's my choice. But it was kind of a mutual thing, we were all just too busy having so much fun that we didn't care about our futures. We had all the time in the world to deal with our futures. And then all of a sudden, we kind of blinked a couple of times and popped out a few babies, and the babies became adults, and we're like, oops. We didn't think about our futures, right? You don't want that to happen. And, a lot of times it's fun, to do things and to grow into adulthood with other people, but then something comes up and you just can't do that. And as difficult as it is to have to choose, sometimes you have to choose what is best for you, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you, darling. And I'm moving on to Theresa. Nothing in Libra. Oh, it's so awesome because the moon was here last week and it kind of sucked, but we're not dealing with that today. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful this week. Loving it. Literally no planets, not even secondary planets, coming in to influence you this week. Focus is on your thought process and how you think. And with nothing to influence that, there's a couple of ways that I can take that, specifically in terms of that thought process. First of all, obviously, we all know that, the more positively you look at things, the more positive it is going to be. And you totally rock at that, by the way. You rock at that more than most people that I know. However, being a little bit psychic, I feel like that usually happens. That's your public face. Your public face says, I have a positive outlook and I always see the good in everything. But I feel like privately sometimes it can be an emotional roller coaster in here, right? And I feel like what tends to start that is little triggers of things that seem like situations that happened in the past. So first of all, around your relationship, for example, if you get into an argument, all of a sudden something is going to be triggered. about something that happened before, and that puts you into that worry place or that scare place. And let's just face it, you're a mom, so you're going to worry yourself to death anyways, right? This is what focusing on the mind really is all about. And I feel like this is a really good opportunity for you to pay attention to where your mind wanders when these situations happen. I guarantee they do not wander into a good place. Okay. They never do. They always wander into a scary, worried, I can't release the control over this kind of place. And that's not good. Specifically around your daughter, who I've been working with and I just think is beautiful and I love her. And I really think we should have joint custody of her. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Okay. She will trigger that worry a lot because she's your daughter. Okay. She doesn't have to do anything and you're going to worry about her. She could literally live in a bubble and you're going to worry about her, right? That's fine, but it also drives you insane to have to do that. So this really is a good opportunity to see just how often you kind of sort of wander to that so that you can start roping your brain back to focusing on what you need it to focus on, something that's productive and positive that's going to get you somewhere, right? Because worrying doesn't get you anywhere. The other thing that I'm picking up for you this week is survey says, don't know where that came from. Jake is showing me that as you're walking, it's like he's throwing pink petals over you as you're walking so that the petals are on the ground in front of you as you're walking, but it's like raining down these petals and they're pink, and pink means love to me. I don't necessarily think that they're rose petals. I don't think that it matters what flower they come from. What matters is that they're pink petals. They're also very small. It's a beautiful sight. But I also feel like he's not doing this because you need love. He's doing this because he wants you to know that everywhere you go, this is what he does. Part of it is for protection. Part of it is so you never have to be without his love in some way. Part of it is it's almost like it's energetically fueling you in a way as well. Not to say that you can't function without it, but it definitely helps, if that makes sense. And also, he's not coming as a man, he's a little boy when he's coming in this instance. And so in that little boy stage of mom is like the best person in the world. If only they would stay that way, right? And I see this little boy just throwing his arms around your neck and almost hanging there forever. It's really cute. He's like a necklace. It's so cute. And that's what I have for you, my dear. Moving on to Regina with nothing in Scorpio. It's just really cool. Last week was a doozy. At least that's what I thought it was. I was projecting it to be a doozy. Technically, while I am recording right now, the doozy hasn't happened yet. So I don't even have confirmation of my predictions yet, which is fine. And they will come. I think it starts tomorrow, actually. So it's fair that this week is nice and calm, and there isn't anything without planets interacting with other planets. You still feel the effects of the last week of the Mercury retrograde, but it is not, there's nothing to stir the pot on that and make that, magnify that, if that makes sense. Focus is on the home this week. And the first thing that comes to mind is what most people say to me when they talk about a Mercury retrograde. They're like, I just want to get in bed and pull the covers over my head for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks and wait it out, right? Which obviously we really can't do that. It really doesn't make sense to do that. So yeah, obviously you can't. But this week, you absolutely can. I feel actually like there's more time this week for you to spend some time at home. Focus on home projects if you want to, or just focused on enjoying the fact that you're home, which is nice. I also feel like there's something about making this home home. And I'm not sure what that means. Okay. I'm just going to leave that there with you to see if you can take that or not, if that makes sense. It's not to say that the home wasn't a home before, but it's like there's something that you've been waiting to get that really makes this home a home, or there's something about this home becoming yours. Something around that is taking place this week. The other thing that I'm picking up for you is I'm seeing this little girl with pigtails, not the pigtail, 2 braids. Okay, dark hair, 2 braids. The braids start here, so they're not the long braids, they're up here, just running around, and the little braids are sort of, I have no idea if this is a child that's around you, but I mean, or if this is your inner child, which is highly possible. But this little girl is just, she's about 4 or 5, still pretty little, but old enough to talk and run around and such. And she's just giggling and she's laughing and she's giggling and she's laughing and she's just having so much fun. So if this isn't a child around you that's physically there, or maybe it is, I do feel that also there is something that really your inner child just loves. It's either going to a place or playing a game or something that connects with that childhood experience in a good way, if that makes sense. It's sort of like, this feels like home. So it's, that to me, it's the smell of eucalyptus trees, because where I grew up, there was a lot of them. That to me is home, and it has something to do with a connection that sort of connects now and then and brings that joy, if that makes sense. That's what I have for you, Regina. Moving on to Theresa Sheppard. Nothing in Scorpio, not a single influence in Scorpio, which is good because it's all happening everywhere else. And well, you had it last week and you don't need it, right? Right. One more week left of Mercury retrograde, causing a little bit of a challenge. I feel like last week you had a pretty big challenge with it. This week is not going to be as big of a challenge at all, because it's there, yes, because it is creating challenges for other people. You may be an innocent bystander of the issues, but I don't see it directly hitting you, if that makes sense. Focus is on the home this week, actually. And what is interesting is I feel like you do have more time to spend this week at home than maybe you normally would, which is actually a nice way to be able to hide out from the Mercury retrograde without, hiding out from the Mercury retrograde. And the influence over this, or the feeling that I get, is really enjoying that home time, not dealing with the stuff that you have to deal with at home, but really enjoying spending some time relaxing in your environment. And you're I don't want to say you're public, but you're in public so often sometimes, that it's just nice to hide out in your little cave, and nobody knows you're there. I think we all kind of need that, and this is a really good opportunity for you to sort of have that centering time where it's just you, right? Then again, I also see interruptions in that as well, which are frustrating and annoying. But let's face it, the whole world revolves around you, and nothing is going to get done unless you make sure that it gets done, in some cases. And actually, the interruption comes from your phone. So you actually could, put your phone in the other room, turn it off, completely ignore it, and then you won't get, you will not get, interrupted. But then again, it might be a really important phone call, so you never know. The other thing that I'm picking up on, I don't think it's a bad one, by the way. The other thing that I am picking up on for you is, I feel like you have been needing some let go time. And when I say let go time, what I mean is, it looks like getting together for a night with the girls, maybe a little bit of painting the town red, if that makes sense. You've had a lot of responsibilities. You have had a lot of schedule, stay on schedule, move. What's going on with your mother? What's going on with your husband? Whatever it is that you're worrying about with your children, because I know you are. Okay, you can't hide it forever. I know you are. All of that you need to let loose and counteract that with just some serious, sometimes semi-irresponsible, however that looks to you. There's time for it. And while there's a part of you that's like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work, and I have to get up and I have to do this and I have to do that, there's another part of you that's like, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what I need to do. That's what I've been missing. And not just what you've been missing, but this sort of, this is the energy that you need right now. You need that feminine coming together magic. I feel like you've been missing it for a while, because it's not that you don't have women around you. It's just not the same. Okay, you have the women around you, you have feminine support. This is different. This is letting go, this is letting loose, this is being just a little bit crazy and laughing and having fun. And when we get together with our girlfriends, we are just, we're kind of stupid, and that's okay, because yes, we want to be stupid. We don't want to have to rule the world right now. This is completely clocking out of that and clocking into, I have no responsibility. I'm just a dumb girl, right? Okay, and I'm not saying that no girls are dumb, okay? But we reserve the right to be dumb girls every now and then, because dumb girls don't have the responsibility that we have, right? So embrace that dumb girl, because she's gonna go out and have a rocking good time. So that's what I have for you, Theresa. Moving on to Jillian. I didn't forget. Again. Okay. Nothing is going on in Scorpio. Yay! Focus is on the home with no planets to influence that. Two things come up. I'm sure I've said this to you before. It's coming up again. Sometimes too much time at home is not mentally healthy, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I found working from home is it is depressing. Like, it felt like a cave. First of all, I was in the garage all the time, worked in the garage, played in the garage, smoked in the garage, relaxed in the garage, everything was in the garage. So it was very dark, and it's literally like being in a cave all the time. That is depressing after a while, and it took me actually quite a while to realize just how depressing it really was. And your safe place or your comfort zone also starts to become like your nightmare. And it very much did for me. However, I personally, and I know that you're kind of the same, really don't want to be out dealing with people very often. Now, I run a business, so I have to. So what I did is I established that my comfort zone is my reward for hard work, dealing with people, because there's a lot of kids your age right now, Daniel being one of them, who do not want to deal with people. Introverts are like, we reserve the right to be introverts and stay home, right? Whereas in my generation, they had to get over it and get a job just like everybody else. And really, honestly, for you guys, it's the same thing. You're gonna have to get over it and get a job, right? Not saying that you're trying to avoid that or anything. But there's no way around it. That is what you need to do in order to take care of yourself, because the people that take care of you are not always going to be there. I'm always telling my own children this: one day I will be gone, and if I didn't push you now, you'd be really screwed when I go, right? And it's what's good for them. They have to be able to take care of themselves when I can't take care of them. And they're all grown, so technically I don't have to take care of them anymore, right? But we all want to stay being taken care of for as long as we can. We all do. And unfortunately, there gets to a point where we take a little bit too long to be taken care of, and the people that are taking care of us decided they don't want to do it anymore. I actually told your sister when she was staying with me, and I think I hurt her feelings when I told her this, and I felt a little bit bad, but I had to speak my truth. Okay, I became a mother when your mother and your uncle were born. Literally, I was helping your grandmother take care of them, and then I was always watching them. And then as a teenager, it was, oh, take your brother and sister with you. And then as a young adult, it was, your brother's doing this and your sister's doing this, you got to tell. I spent my entire life, and in all that time, I had babies of my own, right? Then we're not going to go into your mom and all of that stuff, but it got to a point where I'm like, I have 100 freaking kids, okay? And I have had 100 freaking kids my entire existence. And when your sister kind of moved in, I did teach her to drive because I told her a long time ago I would. But it was, Auntie, you got to do this for me. Okay, Auntie, you got to do that for me. Okay, I don't know how to do this. Auntie, you got to do that for me. Okay. And it was constant. And I just finally said to her, I said, okay, look, I'm going to do the drive thing, because I did promise you that I was going to teach you how to drive. After this, I don't want any more children, because I have been mom to children my whole life. And this is the moment where I get to be free of being mother to children. That does not mean I want nothing to do with you anymore. That does not mean I don't want to help you anymore. It does mean that it is not my responsibility to do it. You can find somebody else to help you, and I'll be your last resort, kind of a thing. I love all of you. I have loved being your aunt. I have loved being your aunt. I've loved being your surrogate mother. I've loved being everything that I have been to you, but I'm tired. And I also deserve the right to focus on something else that I want to focus on without necessarily having to feel bad that I have to focus on all these other people. And mind you, that's never going to happen anyways, right? The point is that for the kid, for your sister in that moment, she, I'm sure, did take offense to it a little bit. You probably would take offense to it too, because it does feel like you're abandoning me. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to abandon anybody. I'm just saying, look, I have earned the right to focus my energy on something other than children. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means that this is that stage. It's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to deal with your own stuff, right? And for all kids, that's scary. It was scary for me. It was scary for everybody, but we got through it. And that's the whole point, is if you spend your time focusing on the fear, you're never going to get through it. If you just rip that band-aid off, boom, you rip that band-aid off and you've got through it, right? And you didn't even have to think about it. And it was so super easy. Yeah, there's always challenges with this sort of thing, but the challenges are never going to go away. You will have to learn to live with challenges. There's no way around that either. The other thing that I feel is popping up around you this week is I feel like I'm seeing like a baby dragon, like a little dragon egg and the baby dragon being hatched. And I used to have a little statue with the little baby dragon. At least I think I did. Weird. Anyways, this little baby dragon coming out of a shell, and it's a green dragon. And dragons are like spirit guide symbols in a way. And I feel like, I don't know if you've been drawing dragons or something like that. In any case, this almost feels like a new guide being born for you, or it's like a new guide being presented to you, or it's your protector. Your dad has a lot to do with this, actually. He's got the baby dragon. He says, this is yours, and she's going to protect you. It's a female dragon. She's going to protect you. I kind of also feel that you may see something about a green dragon. I'm seeing a tattoo already. Honestly, I am. But I am seeing something about a green dragon, like a green dragon pendant or some sort of jewelry. You're going to see this dragon. You're going to be pulled to it. You're going to want to get it. That's totally fine. But in terms of a spirit guide, this dragon was literally born for you. She is going to protect you. And she goes from baby to full-size dragon, and she's literally coiled around you. Nobody can touch you, if that makes sense. And I feel like you need to message me and tell me if you need to learn how to ground and bubble, because this coil around you, that is part of your bubble. It feels like with her in the bubble, you're not absorbing so much from other people, and it creates a stronger bubble, if that makes sense. And she's beautiful. She is such a beautiful dragon. This is such a beautiful gift. And your dad says, just because the dragon's in the bubble doesn't mean that I can't be in the bubble too. Call him into the bubble as well. It keeps him close and he doesn't mind. So that's what I have for you, darling. Okay, I am moving on to Sheri. We're kicking off the week with the moon in Sagittarius. Since we technically ended the week, that very last day of the week, the moon sort of moved into Sagittarius late on Saturday afternoon. Now that we're looking at Sunday, the moon is full on in Sagittarius, and we're of course starting that off in a square with Saturn, and Saturn is focused on money as we go into Monday. That square moves to a square with Neptune and Venus also. So it's a T square. So we have a small challenge with money that becomes a much bigger challenge with money, like yay, right? On top of that, okay, this is the moon, and this is Venus, this is Neptune, all of which, or I should say, Neptune and Venus are in Cancer and Pisces, so very emotional signs. And then, of course, we have the moon, which is pretty close to the cusp of Capricorn, but it is still in Sagittarius, at least at the beginning part of the day. It will be gone by the end of the day. So we have 3 highly emotional planets, 2 of which are in highly emotional signs. Then you got Sagittarius, which technically fire signs are very energetic, but they can be very emotionally volatile too. I mean, come on, you are one, so you know. I mean, the emotions aren't necessarily like the water signs in terms of endless tears. Fire emotion is in your face, okay? And I do feel that this situation with the finances in some way and the family, and we just talked on the phone last night about this could come to a very loudly emotional head, if that makes sense. Specifically around this day. At the same time, though, we are in a Mercury retrograde, and while you and I both know, being mothers, right, the typical mother place is to stand there and go, please pick up your shoes off the floor. Please pick up your shoes off the floor. Please pick up your shoes off the floor. Well, for the love of fucking God, please get your fucking shoes off the floor, right? And then there's the kid picking up the shoes going, I don't know why she's always crazy like that. Why is she always yelling? Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. I think we're missing a couple things here. First of all, in this situation that you've been voicing over and over and over again until you're ready to explode, which is what that whole thing looks like there, I feel like it's time to stop just saying, please take your shoes off the floor. You taught me years ago when I couldn't get the kids to clean their room. I kept telling them to clean their room, and you went in there and said, look, it's easier if you do it this way. Come on, kids, let's pick up all the toys. And they got the toys picked up, and you're like, okay, now pick up all the dirty clothes and put them in the hamper, right? And these kids had that room clean in like an hour because you told them what to do, right? And I feel that this, you got to use your own advice in this situation. Make it even simpler, right? First of all, you change your approach and you change the way that you say the words. It changes the way that they take the information. And I feel specifically with those that are closest to you, your husband and your daughter, they have to understand it from this level, not necessarily from this level. And I feel like, especially between you and Matthew wants to listen to this, between the two of you, you guys are fire and water. Matt needs to understand from here, not because he's too stupid to understand from here. That's not the case. I've seen his chart. He has a Gemini rising, so I know how freaking brilliant he is and how intellectual he is. But honestly, in my experience with that man, and by the way, I love you if you're listening, this is what matters here. It needs to make sense here and not necessarily here. Also, when he's getting it here, it feels like he's being pummeled by it. And that is not, you're not, he's got his pummel shield up, right? So it's like you're throwing rocks and the rocks are just bouncing off of his little helmet that he's got going on, right? I'm not saying if you should be throwing rocks here either. It's the way that you present the information that counts, always. If you're presenting it in the same way you always have and you're still getting the same results, then Sheri, that is not working. You need to do it in a different way. Good news, the moon's the one causing all of this problem. And once he fucks off and leaves, things will calm down just a little bit more. And hopefully maybe you will have gotten across what you need to get across to those people around you so that things can start to be a little bit more comfortable, I guess. Also, there are always things you can do. So in the great trash heap that has been my life in the past few months, the biggest thing that I learned out of it was that there's always going to be a situation that changes life. And if I don't have my shit handled, that's on me. If I'm broke, that's on me. It's not on anybody else. And it can't be, because as soon as you put it on everybody else, it nags at you because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you start nagging at them and they start resisting. And the whole thing is fucking chaos, right? So bottom line is, just because you are taking care of your father does not mean that other avenues of income are closed to Sheri either. There is that possibility of looking into that. So that's what I have for you this week. And I am moving on to Peg. We're kicking off the week with the moon in Sagittarius on Sunday in a square with Saturn. Focus is on those you love. Saturn's focus is on finances, your responsibility to your finances. In many ways, this creates one of those situations where your responsibilities, financial responsibilities, are way more important than what you want, which is unfortunate. I don't see this happening in terms of, a huge loss for you, but I do feel like you've been saving up some money towards something specific and something else comes up that needs to be addressed, and that's really the only money you have. And so it's going to take you longer to save up the money to get to the goal that you want to. It's frustrating. It's not the end of the world. And the moon moves into a T-square with Neptune and Venus on Monday, right at the beginning of the day, and then moves out of Sagittarius by the end of the day. So about mid-afternoon, things start to calm down a little bit, but it's that morning and it's Monday to boot, right? And the big deal about this is it's the moon and Neptune and Venus. Two of those planets, not the moon, but those other two planets are in Pisces and Cancer. So highly emotional signs. All of these three of these planets are emotional planets. We're still in the Mercury retrograde too. This is going to cause a little bit of emotional chaos in the morning. So a couple of different things. First of all, again, we're still in the Mercury retrograde. Miscommunications are happening. Make sure that any communication that you're having, you understand exactly what they're saying. There's nothing hiding behind that, that you're missing. You make sure that the people you're talking to understand exactly what you're saying, so there's no possibility of miscommunications there. And above all, patience. Extra patience helps you to not get overwhelmed by the frustrations around you. If you can't do that and you do get overwhelmed by the frustrations around you, that's okay too. Sometimes it's just impossible for that not to happen. And in that case, the best course of action for you is to get done what you need to get done as quickly as possible, and remove yourself to be able to spend some time working through those feelings, and maybe even just clocking out for a bit if that's what you want to do. Also, as we move into the rest of the week, things calm way down, which is good, because we have no influence in Sagittarius outside of the moon. Focus does still continue to be on those you love. And I feel like there is somebody specific. This is not your husband, so I don't feel like this is anybody that actually lives in your house, but it is a family member who is needing some time with you this week. And it's not, I almost want to say this is a surprise, like you're almost shocked that they're coming to you. I'm not sure why that is necessarily. Maybe it's just out of character for them to do it. And to be honest with you, I also kind of get the feeling that this may be something that either you don't want to do this, or you absolutely can't help them. I feel like in your heart you do want to help them, but there is something about what they're asking you to do that is really gonna make you question whether or not you can do it, if that makes sense. To tune into that specifically, I do think you can help. The question is, do you want to help? You'll understand when the situation arises. I'm just gonna put it that way. I don't know what the situation is. That's what I was told. And that's what I have for you, Peg. Moving on to Mama Sheri. Moon kicks off the week in Sagittarius. Actually, it sort of moved into Sagittarius Saturday afternoon. Now here we are kicking off the week with Sunday, so it's full on in there. And then Monday morning is the moon moves into a T-square with Neptune and Venus, both of those planets being in emotional signs, all three of these planets being highly emotional planets. This is going to cause a bit of a challenge. Obviously, when everything is emotional, we're going to point towards this is an emotional challenge. Okay. And I feel like, first of all, miscommunications are rife around this situation for you. So be very, very, very careful about reacting emotionally, right? When you hear something, for fear that you're reacting to what you heard and not what is, number one, because you'll feel bad if you do. Number two, finances also play into this, because Neptune is focused on finances and Venus is focused on your support system. And being in the situation that you're in right now, where you're financially responsible for yourself, that is a big weight. I'm very proud of you for being able to do it, because honestly, every woman needs to be able to do it. But in all honesty, I also feel that plays into this emotional roller coaster a little bit as well. And it's okay. And it's okay for you to have those moments where you just break down and wish it were different. But I feel like what comes of that afterwards is the knowledge and the ability to know that you don't have a cap at how much money you can make. You can make as much money as you want to, as much money as you choose to, and there is literally nothing stopping you from doing that. No one and nothing stopping you from doing that. So, yeah, think about that. As the moon moves out of there on Monday afternoon, things calm way down and life is good. And the Mercury retrograde is happening. Well, obviously, I mean, it's happening to everybody, but it's not necessarily happening directly to you. This is actually one of those moments where you don't even have to stir the pot to be entertained. You just have to sit back and watch the shit show happen without being involved in it at all. Not that you would be involved in it. So in my experience, sometimes there's a lot of entertainment in other people's misery that they put themselves through. By the way, I had nothing to do with it. So that's one thing. The other thing that I'm picking up on is I feel like there's an appointment, and this appointment, I don't think this is a client appointment. I think this is more like a doctor appointment or something. And it's like it keeps getting moved around, and that's really frustrating. And that might actually be taking place on Monday as well. And that whole planet lineup sort of amplifying the energy behind it, the frustration behind it also, if that makes sense. Extra patience. Remember, it is Mercury retrograde. Okay, these things will happen. And I always feel that they're a lesson for us to get out of our ego, because it's not just about us. Okay, yes, it is inconvenient when you can't plan around it, but that just because it's inconvenient doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. Okay, this is one of those situations where there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. And that's what I have for you, Sheri. And finally, I am moving on to Alyssa. We continue to have Saturn in Pisces. We continue to have Neptune in Pisces. Kind of like bookends, one in the beginning and one towards the end. And while there's small little things that take place, like for instance, the moon on Monday moves into a T-square with Neptune and Venus, which is a pretty big challenge for only a couple of hours. Okay, literally a couple of hours. And they're all the emotional planets. So there is definitely that possibility that something or a situation does come up in the morning that creates an emotional response. But a bad situation or a bad thing happening does not necessarily mean a bad day. So it's completely and totally up to you. You have control over that. Most of this, though, the planets are pretty much moving favorably into places with each other. For instance, Saturn and his grand sextile with Venus as well as Mercury, and this is using that Mercury retrograde to your advantage. Mercury's focus is on career, and Venus's focus is on your support system. We're talking about your responsibility to how much money you make. You have all the support you need to do it. And Mercury's retrograde is pointed right at your career and sort of showing you a new direction, if that makes sense, to make money. Personally, nobody should have one place where money's being generated. So what we've grown up with, we'll put it that way, what we've grown up with in life is somebody has a job and they work that one job and they get a paycheck, and that's how they live. And this day and age, that doesn't really work anymore. You need multiple different income streams, so to speak. And I feel like you've had some ideas on that, long term and short term, It's time to take them out of here and start implementing them and doing something with them, if that makes sense. We also have a, no, we don't. No, we don't. Yes, we have a trine, Neptune in a trine with Mars. Mars continues this focus on inner trauma, bringing this old anger up from our childhood, which is kind of annoying to deal with because, you know, we're constantly dealing with it. But there's also the element of a lot of negative money mindsets are created in childhood, whether it's our perception of how, you know, what kind of money we saw when we were growing up, whether you had food in the house or didn't have food in the house. Where you heard people talking about being broke all the time, or you were a kid that was spoiled rotten and whatever you wanted was handed to you because money didn't seem like it was anything. The truth is that there's a lot of situations that take place in childhood that kind of influence how we look at money in our adulthood. So if you are going through those thought processes of money is so difficult for me to get my hands on, you want to maybe look to some certain things that took place, you know, and it could be anything. It could be anything. Another kid stealing your quarter, and you have created a money mindset that has lasted your whole entire life. That's really all it takes. So when these situations come up, take the time to understand the root of where they're coming from so that you can accept that, you can let it go, you can stop it from controlling your actions from here on out, if that makes sense. And that's what I have for you, darling. And that's what I have for everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I am Melissa Bruce, the heavy metal psychic, and I hope you guys have a great week. I know you will make it a great week. Have a good one, everybody.